Hi, my name is Terry Lee from Sweet Pea Papers and the Sweet Pea Papers Facebook group. And this is our fourth video in our Flower Reflections series. And this is my LineDotArrow design team project for June of 2022. Now, when I recorded this video, it recorded without audio. And I've got annotations in here, which I may remove, but I'm going to leave them in to try and help myself. I've never done a voiceover before, and so we're going to see how it goes. So we're going to begin page 6, and on this page, the first thing that you want to do is you want to cut and ink your papers, which I've done ahead of time, and then we're going to make a collage. Now, we're going to there's the paper that I picked. Like I said, I'm just referring to my notes really quickly and trying to go along with the video. I'm not really sure what to say in between. The pieces for the tags are there. Some of them are done in Victorian velvet, and the stencil for that is in Victoria velvet, and some is done in vintage photo. So those are going to be the tags for the page. That's some of the possible ephemera. That's from the free kit. We've got other pieces of ephemera. We've got the small pieces, which are the little frames and the words and things like that. We've also got some other ephemera that we're going to pick from to do our collage. Now, the collage is just going to be a side tuck sort of pocket. And right now, I'm just going to go through and pick out the ephemera that we're going to make the collage out of. The original image that I choose is the one with the they're not moths, they're either dragonflies or butterflies. I wasn't sure because the wings look like they went one way and the bodies the other. I decided it was a little too long and it wouldn't fit in the collage, so I trimmed off the bottom. I'm going to have to ink it again, of course, because I trimmed off the bottom. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to decide where I want to put it. I want it to be the largest piece down in the corner, and like I said, it's going to be a corner collage. So I'm going to start to position some of the pieces. I'm trying to decide at this point which way the image goes, because I wasn't sure, like I said, which way it was going to go. Totally my fault, not the fault of the of Natalie. Yeah, the Natalie. Then I'm looking at some of the other images, and I decided not to use the 4 square image, and I'm going to use these other 2 images. At first I try to put it in sideways, but it doesn't really look that great that way. So I try a couple different places, and then I end up taking it back out. I'm not quite sure what I'm talking about here, except for the pieces that we're going to pick from to make the collage. And I've got some pockets that came with the kit, and I wasn't sure that maybe I could use a pre-made pocket, but then I decided against that because I wanted to go with straight up collage. As I was digging in there, if I remember correctly, I found a couple more pieces that we could use in our collage, which are the faces for the mirrors and some other smaller images. So that's going to help us out a lot, because we're going to use, I believe, 1 or 2 of the smaller images in the collage. So I'm temporarily getting rid of that one. I'm looking through these images to kind of see if I can find one that I like the best. And as I'm looking through, I discover that I think that the combination of the Victorian velvet and the vintage photo inking looked pretty good. Thought about putting that piece over there, but then it covered too much of the flower. So I wanted to leave the flower on that side, even though as you'll see, it'll be covered up by some of the ephemera that we put in our collage. And I'm going through the little girl and the other images to see what I could put on. And ooh, lo and behold, a really big, beautiful flutterby. And then we're going to use this nondescript oval as well. We're not going to use any of the faces, I decided, in this collage. So if we're going to have to ink things up, I wasn't sure how much of the little ephemera I was going to use. There was a lot of it, so I didn't ink it ahead of time, but it goes pretty quick because they're not very big. And we're just inking, as you can see. You can actually see the white edge from this angle. Then I'm just covering up that white edge. So I'm going to kind of flip these up. Once I put them on, you'll see here in just a second, to layer them to where I have them for the collage. I made the collage short enough so that you could see the butterfly at the top of the page still, and I'm going to be doing that with Glossy Accents. I do all the butterflies, all the bugs, which are going to be those two dragonfly bugs too, on a different page, because you'll see here in a minute that I decide not to use that one and switch it out with one of the others because the collage ends up covering them up, and I didn't want to do that. So I glue mine backwards. I start with the picture in the back, and then you can see here that the collage is going to cover up the image, and I kind of don't really like that. I like the dragonfly image or the butterfly image. So I'm going back to the bigger images to look for a different one. And as you can see in my annotation, the reason I didn't just go with the annotations is because it was just like dead silence in between while I was working. And I didn't like that. And I didn't want to do music that just played over and over every 3 minutes, the same song or the same 2 or 3 songs, because this video is an hour long. And I don't like that when I'm watching it, when someone else does it. And so I don't particularly care to put it in my voiceover, my first voiceover, and have that, be the result of that music going over and over and over. So I've glued the collage together. Oops, no, I haven't. I'm just positioning it where I want. Oh, it looks like I did glue it together. And now I have to find something to cover up those little bitty pieces that are still showing, or that little bitty piece that's still showing. And I'm looking through the words, and I decided to do one of the little images first and then add a word. And as I'm paging through, I find one that's the exact same miniature of the larger picture. So I decide to go with that. And then I believe I pick out a word too. Normally, I would try a couple to see which one I liked the best, but there weren't that many, so it was easy just to kind of flip through real quick and decide which text that I wanted to use. Of course, I glued it to my finger first. Oh, I guess this is where I'm doing the image. I think I'm getting ahead of myself. Now I'm deciding where to put the complete collage. And I think I might cut the end of this off as well, because I don't think I didn't cut the image off at the bottom. So I think I stick it in the paper trimmer and cut the bottom off. Yeah. Like I said, I'm kind of going for my annotations, and then I'm going from what I'm looking at as well. Trying to remember what I did for a whole hour. And you guys know I chat a lot, so I'm trying to not keep too many silences in here and to keep the dialogue going. So I'm just making sure the edges are all inked on the front. So I'm gluing this onto the page, and originally I was going to make it a pocket, and then I decided to make it into a tuck instead. I thought it would look better that way, and I could fit more ephemera in there. So you're going to line it up with the bottom corner and the side. You're only going to glue those two long sides of the large image, and that's all. You're not going to have to glue any of the rest. And now you can see the flower image on the side plus the butterfly at the top. A little bit of greenery at the side, which doesn't bother me at all. Like I said before, wasn't that hard to pick out a word to use. And I decided to go ahead and use it in the collage and not put it somewhere else on that larger piece. I thought this turned out well. I don't usually do collages on the pages. I try not to. Now I'm testing out different pieces of ephemera to see what they look like and if they'll fit on the page. And this mirror, I could have put it in like that, but I didn't really like the way it looked. So I decided to try it a couple more places, a couple more ways, and I didn't really like it. I found a couple of spots in the ephemera, in the collage, that could be glued a little bit more to make it more cohesive and more one piece. And so I went ahead and glued it. And I believe I'm talking about the different flowers that are showing. Now that little bitty flower down in the corner, the oval, will have glossy accents on it afterwards. And the blue butterfly or the green butterfly and the butterfly up at the top are all going to have glossy accents on them at the very end. The glossy accents I do off camera, and I believe on all three of our last pages I do the lace off camera. You guys have seen me do it on the other pages and on the front cover. So I don't think there's any need for you to, watch me do it again. And I believe we're going to put it in the book right now. I decided to wait on the ephemera for the inside of the pocket to see what we had left after decorating the other pages, because I wasn't sure what I wanted to put in, and I wanted to make sure that I had something and didn't need to reprint anything to get a couple extra larger tags. And this page and most of the other pages are printed on the back because I wasn't sure if I was going to make writing cards out of them or not. There's one additional writing card that goes in the top, and I do that off camera as well because I showed you how to do the first one, and the second one is exactly the same, or made in the same way. It isn't the same picture. I used a different card. So I'm trying to get it straightened up. It's kind of funny, the annotations popping up right after I say something. I guess I'm remembering it a little bit better than I thought. Who knew? All right, so now we're going to start on page 7. And it says right there, you'll be able to see them in the flip through. I put the lace on the back cover as well, off camera. So on page 7, we're going to make this little envelope piece. And this is an example from another project that I did that I used this in, only I used it as a floating pocket, and we're not going to use it as a floating pocket in this project. We're going to attach it to the page. And instead of cutting the envelope on the side to make a side pocket, we're going to trim it on the top to make a top pocket. And then we're going to feed the card in from the top. In this one, I didn't decorate the inside back of the envelope, and but this one we are, the one for page 7, we are going to decorate on the inside. Yeah, we're going to glue the 3 sides on the page versus making floating pocket or just gluing it onto the page straight up. And you'll notice that I've printed the envelope on both sides already before we started the tutorial. And when you do that, you're going to want to wipe off the acetate that's over the window because it doesn't, on an inkjet printer, because it doesn't really seem to dry. And don't worry about the postage stamp image. That will be covered when we fold the bottom up. So now we're going to cover the inside of the envelope with an image, and we're just going to use the opening at the top to slide it in there. I'm just checking to make sure everything's glued. Sometimes that'll fold over in the printer, but if you don't have it completely sealed. But this time it worked out okay. You want to print on both sides because we're going to fold the bottom of the envelope up eventually here. as you can see in the demo over there where I just stenciled on both sides. So that's why you want to print both sides, because when you fold it up, you want to be able to see an image on the back and not the white envelope. This is a junk mail envelope. It's not just one of the cream colored envelopes that we were using before, the invitation envelopes and the larger envelopes. So I picked the image to use on the inside, and I tried to position it so that the flowers would show. On this, I'm trying to trim it, like I said, so that the flowers show through the window as the backing page. So we're going to set this to the side, and we're going to trim our backing page for inside the envelope. And I hadn't realized I hadn't measured it for the flowers, so I remeasured. Sorry about that. I said that I had done it to begin with, but I didn't. So now I'm remeasuring the height and the width. I think originally I was going to put the flowers in a different place, but I didn't. So I decided the image was going to work better the other way, and that was why I had turned it. Now we're going to try it out in there and see what it looks like. And open the envelope really wide, makes it easier to get the paper in and out. So we're going to flip it around so the flowers show. Look at that. Came out on the first try. Yay! I was very pleased. So we're going to glue it in and then slide it down in the envelope and stick it to the back of the inside of the envelope. I hope the annotations are helping with the voiceover. It's definitely helping me give you the steps on what to do. And I hope they're not annoying. Before, it was like watching a silent movie from the 40s or whenever that was, 30s, 40s, when just the images popped up to tell you what was going on the screen. And that always drove me a little nuts. So that lines up fine with the flowers. So we're just going to go ahead and put that in and glue it down. Of course, I'm always getting glue all over my hands, so I have to keep wiping it off. I think I might have been talking about the card that we're going to put in on the side. So you're going to fold the bottom of the envelope up. And I'm going to refer to the image. And it looks like I did this one. Oh no, I did do it the same. That one has the card up. So you want to cover the window, but just a little bit, because we're going to be putting a card in here. See those little images on the top right of the flip up? You'll notice I don't cover them in this video of this tutorial, and I just didn't notice them. So I did go back and put one of the sentiments there. And that's why you can't fold down the right hand side, is because you see that the fold, if you do that, just doesn't show up right. You're going to want to make sure that when you fold it, that that bottom is straight across. And then make sure everything's glued down. Look how much of that was not glued. I don't know how I didn't catch that on the first try. I think I caught the other end, but not that end. You know, I keep putting my hands on those little numbers. I keep looking right at the area where the little numbers are, and I just don't see them. But you can see that we're covering up the postage. And we're only going to glue the outside because we're going to make a pocket right there where the paper or the envelope is folded up. And then we're going to glue the bottom side only of this piece so that we can make the tuck from the side. Now at this point, you could actually glue the other way and put a little card in that sticks out on the bottom, or a little piece of ephemera, but you can get a much better and larger image in if you do it from the side. Plus, you don't have to worry about that big empty space right there. Well, I don't cover it, but I wish I had. I don't think I cover it. So now I'm going through the ephemera to see what's going to fit. And believe it or not, this little folder here that came with the kit slides right down in there, and it fits perfectly. I do go back on this, and I put glossy accents on the daisies and on any butterflies or anything that are on this page. I think there's one on the card that just happened to fit right in there perfectly. You'll see that little card. You can see the edge of it. But in the end, I go back and straighten that up on the inside. Then I try to put a couple images in. The little tag that I pick is a little bit too long, so I'm going to have to trim the bottom of it off. You'll see that here in just a second. So you see it fits in there, but it's too long, so we're going to have to trim it off. I believe off camera, I go back and I add some ephemera to the middle of that plain oval that's stuck in there with the little ephemera in the tuck spot, along with putting a little sentiment over the little numbers and stuff that show right there. Yeah, and that's just saying that you can actually cut your ephemera to make it fit. As long as your image isn't cut off, usually on I don't remember what I was going to say. So now you're going to check and see which side you want the envelope assembly to be on. Remember, we're going to be putting on lace on the left-hand side. Now, on a side note, I wish that I had gone ahead and put it over to the left, because the bulk of that folded over area was in the center, and that made the page a little thick to fold shut. But you'll see that I do go ahead and glue it to the right before I realize when I'm closing the book. If you line that up directly, before you glue anything, then you'll be much better off. So I had a break and then I came back and I discovered that that tag, that pre-made tag, fit right up under our envelope assembly as a card without any trimming or anything. So I was really happy about that. So now I'm going to glue the element to the paper, and don't forget to make the pocket that the card is going to go into. As you can see, I'm checking again which side I want to glue it on. And I decided to glue it on the right hand side. Like I said, even though I wished I had glued it on the other side in hindsight. So I'm going to glue this on the paper now. And I'm reminding you again that we're making a pocket and that that little leaf image is where we don't want to glue. I also have my hand on the side that we don't want to glue. That helps you remember. I don't glue in the center of the pages. If there's enough around the edges and the corners, I don't really feel like it's going to go anywhere. I haven't had any problems with pages or papers coming out. I decided to put it in the center instead of at the top or the bottom. I think it looks better that way. And I'm not really liking the way it looks. I thought it would look better than it does. And then I show how the tag fits in perfectly. We just got lucky as to where we folded the envelope up at. I did not pre-measure it for that. Now, you could put an envelope there without making the pocket, without, you know, folding it up or whatever, but I just thought that added an extra element. You can see I've put the card in. I'm kind of looking at that spot where I glued it. And then here in just a second, you'll see I'm explaining how the page is done. We're going to get the book and we're going to flip it over to glue it in the book. I'm talking about which side the lace is on. I go to put it in the book, and that's when I look at the picture on the back and I realize, uh-oh, that's the side of the picture I meant to use. And so let's see if the glue is still wet enough that we can get the envelope assembly off and glue it onto the other side. So I carefully remove it, feeling foolish, and I glue it to the other side. I agree with the annotation. So we're going to glue this on 3 sides, still leaving the little leaf side, where the little leaf is in the center. That's our guide if we're not to glue. I'm always saying ink for glue. So if I'm gluing and I say ink, you'll know that I mean to say glue, I hope. It's just one of those things. I get it switched around in my brain, and then the next thing you know, I say it that way every time. Now we're going to glue it into the book, now that we're gluing the right side of the paper. I believe I'm just talking about the different elements of the page. Now you'll notice what I didn't notice, which is that everything is over a little bit too far to the right. So when I go to fold it, I'm going to have to make some adjustments afterwards, after the glue is dry. The book's getting a little rounded, so I'm holding the corners until the glue dries a little bit. Oh, and by the way, today's ring is light blue. I have like 50 different rings, and I wear different ones in the videos. I try to anyway. So now we're going to start page 8, and there's all the paperwork for that. Page 8 is not going to be difficult. So here's all of our pieces. So I printed another envelope with the same picture from the page, and so we're going to make a hidden envelope, a hidden pocket out of it. And so once I cut it down, there's going to be a side pocket and the top pocket. So that's going to be a double pocket, because I need to trim the envelope down for size anyway. So I went ahead and left that open, and that's going to be our side pocket. Getting rid of all my little notes to myself. You can see on the back of that image where there was a little bit of white border around, that was a misprint. And so, but I ended up being able to use it as a page because it was just a misprint on the back side. I really like this image a lot. It was one of my favorite ones. And I end up using it, I believe, 3 times on the page. Now, at the end, after the video's over, you can see the 2 insects. Well, 3 insects. One is a little caterpillar, and I glossy accent all of those. Plus, I highlight the flower with the glossy accents. I believe at first I was going to glue that shut, and that was why the annotation said that. So I cut it back a little bit further than I was going to, just to make it fit. I was going to trim the top actually and make a double pocket on the top, but then I decided that was cutting it a little too close. So I'm going to mark it further in. So obviously I'm trimming it where I marked it. And I mentioned that I had run out of repositionable tape. And so hopefully I cut it in the right spot because I did not have another one. I could not print out another one to do it again. So we're going to ink the envelope and just the two sides so it becomes an almost hidden pocket. It doesn't exactly become a hidden pocket because the little bit of the card has to stick out on the right so that you know that it's there. But the picture is pretty much lined up. And the envelope makes it tall enough that the picture doesn't have to be lined up on the top, even though it is. So we're just talking about the card on the side and how we're going to glue the envelope on. And I marked the top, which is another way to know where not to glue. And I'm going to glue the envelope onto the page, making the pocket. Now that tag is to go in the side, it's not to go in the top. So now you want to make sure that the two corners line up. That's funny, the annotation was popping up right as I was saying it. I guess I'm remembering it correctly at least. It's good that I remember what I did. So we've got that glued down now. Like I said, I didn't glue the top or the right-hand side because I wanted it to look like a hidden pocket as much as possible. Now, we're cutting to making the pocket for the side, so I misspoke. The tag was not for that. That might have been the tag for the page before. For some reason, then I took it out for some reason, maybe. So now we're checking for the size. We want to keep the flower, so we make sure the flower is in the area that we're not cutting off. Like I said, I've never done one of these voiceovers before, so you have to have a little patience with me as far as remembering exactly, what happened. Fortunately, that came out to where it fit. On the first try, there's a little problem with the inside of the envelope, not the size of the card. Like the annotation said, you want to make sure a little bit of the card sticks out so you have something to grab onto to pull it out. Plus, that way the person going through the book knows that the card is there. We could have used a tab. Making tabs is difficult for me. Can never seem to get them just right. So we're going to round the corners on this since it's a card. And then we're going to have to ink it because we custom cut it. I love the We Are Memory Keepers corner rounder. I almost didn't buy one, as I thought. $20 for a corner rounder, but it ended up being a really good deal for the amount of use that I get out of it and for the accuracy of getting the whole corner rounded instead of having that little cut off piece on either end. And I think I was talking about that. I keep wanting to call it a media mat, but it's not. It's a media grip, I believe it's called, by Tim Holtz, and I love it. It comes in a sheet, 8.5 by 11, and then you cut out the pieces that you want to use. Sorry about that. I have my phone right by the microphone like a big dum-dum. Anyway, you'll notice my glass mat is also by Tonic Studios, but it is not a Tim Holtz. This is an UK version, as you can notice by the A5 and the centimeters and everything, but it was larger, so that's why I went ahead and bought it. I don't really use the measurements on there. So now I'm showing about the tag, I'm sorry, the pocket on the top. And so I believe I'm explaining about the notebook that we're going to make, where the front hangs down over and it isn't just tucked into the pocket. So now we're going to cut our papers. I forgot to trim that one. We're going to cut our papers so that they fit inside the envelope pocket that we made. That one may be a reprint, you know, where I printed it double or triple to get that image to overlap like that. So maybe that's why I forgot to trim the edges off. Once again, we want to save our image. So we're going to trim it to save the part that we want to keep. And this is going to be the cover for the notebook. Now there's a lot of notebooks and writing little notepads in here because this is more of a look at pretty book and not a journaling book itself. So I added journal space by adding the notebooks and the note cards in. So now that goes in there, but I think it's too tight of a fit, and I think I do it again. I could have notched it, I guess, so it was wider at the top, but I didn't think of it until just a second. Yep, I am trimming it down just a little bit, and I'm trimming it down on the side that is the edge of the envelope where the card sticks out. I had a misprint envelope, so I I don't remember what I was going to say. Anyway, I printed another paper for the back of the notepad, and I made it the same size, obviously, as the front. Oh, I know what I did. I forgot to print on the back side, so these are white on the inside. So we want to measure for how long we want it. We obviously don't want it to stick out up over the top. The notepad back, if you'll notice, is a little bit wider than the rest of the page, but that was just an accident. And I had a miscut. I didn't notice it at the time. So that fits in much better. It's much easier to slide in and out. So you're going to turn your outside images to the outside so that they show on the front and the back, and the back of the notepad is not white. That one piece came from the double-sided, so it didn't matter. But this is our coffee dyed paper. We're going to cut it to size. We're going to cut it just a smidge smaller than the notebook, and then that way will give us just a little bit of edge on the way around. But I am measuring it to the size of the actual notebook, but I want it to be a little bit smaller, the pages. I'm sorry if my speech is slurring a little bit. I'm having a little bit of trouble with my speaking today. Sorry, the video went out of focus. I'm not really sure why it did, but it comes back. I'm just trimming the notebook paper down a little bit to make sure that it fits, or cutting it actually for the width. For some reason, it keeps not lining up as soon as I lay it down, so I have to keep readjusting it over and over again. Having a bit of an issue with the paper. And I want to cut it just inside the lines, once again, to make sure that it fits inside the notebook. So now you want to flip the back of the, oh, we're going to ink them. I think the book turned out really well, especially after I put the lace and stuff on. It looks really nice, and the glossy accents. So be sure to watch the flip through to see that. And don't forget to sign up and get the free PDF with the step-by-step. Then you can follow along with the video. Makes it much easier from what I understand from people that leave comments and such. Some people are visual learners, and some people are audio learners, and some people are reading learners. And if you can combine the video, the audio, and the reading together, then you're really going to be able to understand what's going on a lot better. I forgot to ink the insides of the notebook cover. Or a one, I think. I looked away for a second. I'm not sure if I did one or both. You're going to flip the back one around so there's an image on both sides. Excuse me. Yeah, I used the tiny attacher. It's kind of funny that he calls it that. I don't know why he doesn't just call it a little stapler. It's what it is. Make sure both images are right side up as well when you flip that one over further back. And I left the front of the notebook hanging over to cover the fact that all the pictures line up. You have to kind of finagle it a little bit to make sure that it's straight. I wish I had made it just that little bit longer so that it covered the whole image, but I think it looks good like that anyway. And then we've got our side card that wants to be ornery, but especially when you put your hand on top of the envelope. You'll notice if I tip the card sideways a little bit, it doesn't want to come out. It's where the flap is on the inside of the envelope, I think. And that's why I'm kind of double checking and making sure that it fits correctly. Everything seems to be fine, so now we're going to glue it into our book. And then I'm going to switch to a little bitty video that's the very, very end. Because they ran out of time. The 30-minute timer went off again. That's already gone by. I thought I was going to say it came up in just a second, but I just was able to keep right on going with the new video. And I believe it's only like 4 minutes long. So we've glued this in. And when I go to close the book after I get everything lined up, that's when I notice that the pages don't want to close flat or very flat. And it's because the corner of that tag or the top of that tag is sticking out, and the edge of the envelope, the corner top of the envelope is sticking out as well. And even when I trim, see how it doesn't want to close? Even when I trim it, I don't notice that the little numbers are there. So I trim the corner off the envelope to give it a little bit better space to close with. I could have just set it under a book, but there was a little piece that was going to fold. I may have gone back and added the I don't know what I was going to say here. Sorry about that. Yeah, make sure the glue is dry before you put the ephemera in there, or the ephemera will stick in the pocket. So you can see that little part that's folded over, and that's the part that's catching. So I'm just going to pull it back a little bit and trim it at an angle. And like I said earlier, yes, I should have done that. We could have glued it on with the pocket on the other side. That's much better. So now we're done with our complete book. And I could have made the flap there with the envelope on it and then something on the back of it if you wanted to do that and add some extra space right there. And I'm pointing out that I'm going to use the Glossy Accents and that there's a pocket on the back that I forgot to make a card for, and I wish that I hadn't inked the pocket because it could have been a hidden pocket if I hadn't done that. I think here in a minute I'm going to thank you for watching the video and doing the video series with me, and that I hope you enjoy it. And as you know, I think I'm just going over some of the few changes that we did to make sure that all the elements work with the book. And then I'm going to go back and do the lace on everything that's left after the video's over. It still closes a little bit wide, but I was able to squish it down and hold down for a little bit, and then it closed up just fine, especially once I had it tied shut for a little while. So that's the video, that's the series, and I want to thank you for joining me in this video series, and I will see you in the next video, and that will be just a second for you and a day for me. Bye-bye.